Hello and welcome to the All Together Now Everton Football Club podcast. I'm your host Tony Scott and I'm joined by Greg O'Keefe and Gav Buckland to talk all things Everton on this special episode, our Goodbye to Goodison Park episode. We're asking the gents their first match, their favourite feature at Goodison Park, their best ever 90 minutes inside the Grand Old Lady, the best Everton player they've seen live, and also their favourite Goodison Park moment. What would they love to relive once more? First up, gents, it's our first match. Gav, seeing as that you're the elder statesman of the trio, you can have first go.
My first match here was the 5th of February 1972. It was against Walsall in the FA Cup. Thankfully, for the wonders of YouTube, you can actually see it now, which is a bit mad when you think about it.
Black and white?
No.
Only messing, Gav.
No. To be fair, there is a point to that was the first time I'd ever seen a game in colour.
Wow.
We only had
See, I was thinking there.
We only had black and white television. So I've never seen a game in colour before.
Wow.
And so that was the first thing that when he came to the ground. Even though it was a grimy February day.
Yeah.
It was like, the grass is green, there's blue stand, and it was just, because I was a kid, and I was in the Park End stand, and, you just, even at that young age, you realise the telly doesn't do justice to it. It just looked massive, the stadium. Because when you look at it on the telly, because of camera angle, when you look across the pitch, it doesn't look that big, does it? It's only when you come behind the goal that you just realise how wide it is, that you don't get that perspective on the TV. Yeah, and we won 2-1, and not got the next round, I think, but it was also an auspicious day, by the way.
Yeah. As
well, because more people watched football on Merseyside that day than any other day in history. 125,000 people. There was 45,000 there, 56,000 at Anfield. They were playing Leeds Cup, it was a massive game, and Tranmere got their record attendance.
Wow.
Against Stoke, 25,000, it's 126,000 people in the area watching football that day. Well, a lot of people, but not many people, no number of cars.
Yeah.
That, So it was also memorable for that, I suppose. But yeah, I don't think you forget your first day. Thankfully, because YouTube, you can
relive it again.
Which is something.
Of course. So what I asked my dad about this one the other day because I couldn't remember. He said to me mine was 1987, beat Newcastle 3-0. Obviously
Wayne Clark
hat-trick. He said that was your first ever game, but I don't remember anything of it. I was probably about 5 at the time. But the one I can remember was when Mark Wright scored a header down at the Gladys Street end in the Merseyside derby, and we come back and beat them.
Oh, 92?
92, yeah. So that's the one.
Yeah.
My very first memory of Goodison, Liverpool scoring in the Merseyside derby. Remember Mark Wright heading it in, and then Everton coming back, and that's just unbelievable scenes. I just remember then going, wow, that's my first vivid memory of Goodison Park and Merseyside derby.
Both for your first film, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
That's when you were singing Going Down, man. He scored straight away, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
They scored them and he scored straight away. They give him loads of stick.
Yeah.
That's when the away fans were at the Park End.
Yeah.
If you watch the equalising goal, he's there going down.
And next minute Everton scored.
Next minute Morris Johnson scored.
When you say the away fans are in the Park End, obviously it helps.
They were here,
yeah.
Before they were obviously over that side.
92-3, we still standing up as well.
Yeah, it was indeed.
Unusual to allow the away fans to have such a prominent, obviously, because the half that their side are attacking the Gladys, they're right behind them, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
If you wouldn't get that now, would you?
No. If anything, they're hidden away as far away from the camera as possible. But then,
Newcastle springs to mind.
Yeah. It was part of the atmosphere of the game. That away fans, went behind the opposite goal to home fans.
Yeah.
Saying that though, in those days, the way followed as well. We're not like what they are now.
Yeah.
So you've got to have Everton games in the 80s and stuff because there's actually nobody in the way end at all.
Yeah.
But it's one of them characteristics that's gone, really. It's quite sad in some respects. I think it's always good when you have them at opposite end.
Yeah. Adds to the atmosphere, doesn't it?
Like when we played at Anfield, wasn't it?
In the cup games when you get the full Anfield Road end.
You had the whole
it's great. It's a really good atmosphere. Greg, your first trip to Goodison Park?
Well, like you, I had to think about this because I don't remember the game very vividly at all. So I sort of remember realising that I was going to my first game. It was 1989, round about Easter. We beat QPR 4-1. remember Tony Cottee, who was one of my favourite players at the time, scored. I think Sheedy might have scored. I can't remember too much else. But obviously that season was so memorable for all the right and wrong reasons, because my second ever Everton game, bizarrely, first one was it was a league game in First Division, and then my second, my dad took me to Wembley.
Oh, yeah.
For the final, we got beat by Liverpool after Hillsborough. So that stands, I mean, I can say all day about that. And in a way, that kind of like supersedes my memory of first time at the Old Lady, which is weird. I suppose, in a sense, that feels like my first game. But yeah, I know I was here for that QPR game. I've seen pictures, but it was probably later, when I would have been about 8 or 9. So it's only later on, I think, when I sort of got into my early teens, when I started coming on my own, actually, away from school and out the street. That era felt more vivid. But like you, there's little snapshots on there, and for me, it's usually kits.
Yeah.
I can remember the kits. I used to be obsessed with the Everton kits. It's just a love. Silly, but the colours of it, and I know Dave Prensar, our mate always gives me stick because how much I 86 kit because I had a bib, and he always dismisses it. Oh, it's a Birmingham City kit. But yeah, so it was that. I think Colin Harvey was the manager.
Yeah,
sure, it was Easter.
It was 4-1. It was notably the fact that Peter Reeves was playing for the QPR, and notably again that they scored from his back pass.
One of as many assists for Everton.
At the Gladys Street end, like a faulty back pass by the Edie, and
was it Andy Gray hadn't it in for Reed's Cross Gray, was it, Gav?
That's good, isn't it? Yeah. It was. I remember that game. I was getting a bit of stick.
Was he?
A bit of stick.
Light-hearted.
Because he'd done the back pass. Like,
how old must he have been?
He was about 32, 33.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
So he's probably younger than we thought he was.
Really, shall we say, had the characteristics of somebody who looked reasonably, old. Had his himself, like, He died his hair famously, didn't he? When it all ran out, Wimbledon all came off in the rain. But no, Reedy was a great player. Which we'll talk about a bit, obviously. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How thanks to YouTube you can
see all these. But it's just unique, isn't it, that our first 3 games, all 3 wins. So it gets it out, doesn't it?
That's not very representative of my time watching Everton here at all, really.
It is. I always think so those try to remember your first game. That's right. It's just one of the things that's like a rite of passage, isn't it? Really, first game of football.
It is indeed. Well, we know Goodison Park is a very, very unique footballing stadium, and it has some obscure features in it. Greg, what is your favourite feature about Goodison Park?
I'm going to go with it's a perverse answer because it is my favourite. I also hate it the most, and it's the press box. It's my favourite because I count myself fortunate enough to have covered Everton for a long time. If you'd have told me when I was at that QPR game one day I was going to be Everton correspondent for the Liverpool Echo, I would have, that would have been my dream, and in many ways was a dream job. So to do that was unbelievable. Go home and away with Everton for 9-10 seasons, Europe, pre-season tours, and to spending so much time here. And that press box, I'm looking at it now, we've all spent a lot of time in it ourselves.
Yep.
If it's a challenge logistically for me, at 5'7", then it's a challenge more for Gav as well, much more. But it's the most cramped, horriblest, tiny little press box in the Premier League at the moment.
Yeah.
There've been others that have come and gone, but currently in the Premier League, it's an absolute pain. But in some ways, I'm going to miss it so much when it's gone because, I know Bramley Moors will probably be a dead species and be able to go back in your seat and a holder for your coffee. I've had so many vivid memories and I've seen so many amazing games and so many frantic moments, and you sort of trying to furiously see who scored that, who whipped the assist across, and the atmosphere of it with the broadcast guys and legends of radio and from the BBC Radio Merseyside and John Keith and chatting to you and Gav, friendships. I'm fortunate to have some friends there as well, and then me and you keeping the quips coming from back where you are. As I'm 3 rows in front. So it is a perverse answer because, as I say, there's part of me that'll be glad I'm not going to have to squeeze past the seat. And I'm not exaggerating, am I? There's to get to your seat, you've got to squeeze down, I'd say a row, but it's not really. to get past TV screens, people's like, oh, that's not bad.
Cables.
You have to literally tell everyone else to move out the seat to get it to the end, don't you?
It's a nightmare, isn't it? I mean, it's funny enough, it's always been like that, because the main stand was built in 69, 70, but the previous main stand, the press box apparently was exactly the same then, like, you know, so much so that during the 1966 World Cup, you know, was obviously had the Wales press in the press box, you know, got those having get that to and well, like this, I'll come to that in a minute, yeah, absolutely. There was a Brazilian journalist there who was pushing me at a Swedish journalist about the hat on. This Brazilian journalist lit this cigar and made the Swedish journalist's hat caught fire. Because it was that cramped to say. And he made the point. He wrote a letter of complaint to the Echo. Can you get a bigger press box? I got this, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen the letter. Like,
wow.
You know,
that was in the World Cup, 66.
And to be fair, it's not all, you know, looks in the press box. You still have obstructive views as well.
You do, yeah.
Oh, this is it. People might not believe it, but even to this very day, if there's a corner in the left, we're sat in the park end now. So in the corner of the main stand and the park end, there's a corner kick there. Most of the crowd can't see who's taking the corner. If the action goes right down, and say a winger's trying to take on the fullback, good luck. You have to. Usually, you're having to watch a TV screen to see it.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's been weird like the press box, but like it is great, as you say. It's like I can't see the Gladys Street goal, you know, like
you can't, can you?
But that's just one of the things, isn't it?
That's what makes it unique, isn't it? So what makes it special.
So, that's a great show, that.
Yeah. Mine is the gantry on the far sides of the Bullens. I've been in there. I've been very lucky enough to do feature there for Sky Sports once.
Wouldn't fancy that.
And it's
that's called Pairs of
of course it was. Dropping it in there. It was up the stairs, and then you'd have to go on top of the roof to get down onto it. And you know, you can understand now when you hear co-commentators and pundits speak so highly of Goodison Park, because that view in the gantry is the best in the ground. It really is. It's incredible. You have a bird's eye view of Goodison Park. It's just a special, unique site, and there's no obstructive views. As you just touched on, you're on top of the atmosphere. It's an unbelievable view, and very lucky to.
Do you feel safe up there?
You don't. I'm not going to lie. You don't. It's quite. It's don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's very steep.
A few people have actually filmed themselves going up and across and down, haven't they? Like, and it does look a bit scary.
Yeah.
I'm not too clever with heights.
Yeah. But because there's a bit of history about television coverage, really. So if you watch games in the 60s, the camera was in one corner of the ground, so it wasn't even anywhere near the halfway line. It was only really, I think, in the mid 70s they put it on the halfway line. I mean, at one stage there was a camera and they filmed it from the main stand off the Bullens Road at one stage. And then if you watch games certainly in the early 80s, it's a lower level. You know, it is the lower level. That was the main camera thing between the paddock and the. I
can't imagine how that'd look on.
Yeah. And there was even the stage in the late 70s where it was at the top end but close to the park end and the main stand. It was just mad that actually. You watch all telly to Goodison up till the mid 80s. Some really mad camera angles for in the film. So as you say, there was a bit of time when he filmed for the books on those. He still, I mean, the club used to film games there for years. You know, for the internal use. Yeah, but in terms of they've had like several different specs over the years in the Bullens. So.
Yeah, that's my one. The gantry, a unique site to watch Goodison Park. Gav, I'm very intrigued to.
Well, no, I was going to say the best box in the gantry actually. But it shows you, I'm going to go for something that's not here anymore. And it's the Littlewood's clocks.
Oh yeah.
Which are so prominent during, like, you know, the glory days and stuff. The Goodison. But not because of that, they're just prominent because it told the tale, didn't it? It told that the Littlewood's clocks, and for 20 years or so we were bankrolled by Littlewood's, the multi-millionaire. So there was an attachment there, wasn't it? And it was just a great feature of the ground. And when you watch highlights of games and stuff, you know what minute you're not saying.
You didn't have to look.
Clock, you know. And
where'd you go?
They were in the corners,
In the corner.
Yeah.
Is it by where the church is, Gav? Yeah.
So basically the street,
Yeah.
And they give the crowd identity, but they also told the story as well, as well as being they were just fab, very old school, and so the Littlewood box was, I think, my favourite feature. One sort of bonus with it is I always look to where he used to stand. So whenever I come to the ground, so I just always look over it.
Yeah.
Where is that?
We actually look now towards Glad Street goal, sort of the second pole from the Bullet Road there, just behind that.
Yeah.
Just down. I was not hard enough to be there on the Glad Street.
No.
Just to select.
Sure, you were sure the heartbeat of the Goodison Street night back in the day, Gav.
I was that committed to the spec. The only person that Goodison was possibly taller than me stood right in front. I would never move. There's that thing about lucky specs and stuff like that. So rather not see the game, but I always have a look. That's cherish that spec. But I think the little sponsors.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Very good shout. Definitely indeed. Well, let's go to our favourite match, gents. I'll go first tabs on this. I was going to pick the Wimbledon game, but I kind of was here and I wasn't.
Yeah.
Because the stands wasn't here.
Yeah, correct.
The stands wasn't here. I was in the park I was in the Stanley Park trees.
Yeah.
Because obviously it was a demolition job. It was a building site. It was flat. So I remember coming to the stadium with my dad and he said, I can't get a ticket. If you need me, I'll be in the Blue House on the corner. You try and see if you can get in somewhere. I can't get you a ticket. And it was a case of couldn't get in for love of the money because obviously there was no stand, so there's only 3/4 of the stadium that were full. So I went to in the trees in Stanley Park. I was fine watching the game as the game was going on. It had a brilliant view, by the way. You could watch the game going on. It was brilliant. And I always remember then the game was panning out, and then Barry Orn's strike, that obviously fantastic goal. And I remember the full trees in Stanley Park, they just shuddered. I just went from about a 20-foot drop flat right back on, and I just went, what happened there? I went, what's going on? Oh yeah, there was about 5. I remember a fella just literally you're okay, mate, you're okay. And at the time, 94, I was about 12.
Yeah.
I was like, you okay? Well, yeah. Exactly. But thinking about it now, like my dad was just saying, like, go and fend for yourself in the trees watching the match. I'll be in the Blue House if you need me. There's no mobile phones.
I've never heard that sense. Don't fend yourself in the tree.
It was incredible to think back in the day where we are now with social media and where you can watch everyone's movements. But back then it was just like go and watch everything in the trees, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
Long before the days of, just before the junior Evertonians, remember them, the little orange passes to get in the Gladys Street? Way after your time, of course, Gav. But watching the team. But the match I'm going to go for is Everton 1, Manchester United 0, 2005.
Oh, what a game.
I sat in the Gladys Street with my brother, went to every game that season, and that, at the time, Liverpool were obviously in and around for the Champions League specs. We were obviously going for the Champions League. And we'd sold Rooney, we brought Kane and Arteta. And looking back at that United side that night, it's like Ronaldo, Van Nistelrooy, Rooney, Scholes, Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, Gabriel Heinz, world-class players, and we had the likes of Kevin Kilban, Lee Carsley, and that atmosphere that night was absolute. I remember coming out of the stadium and speaking to my brother Steve, I thought, that's the best game I've ever been to. And I remember walking down towards Carisbrooke Road and going, that was incredible. That game got us forward, because you remember Liverpool played Portsmouth on the same night. It was Everton and Liverpool that were going for fourth that night. So only about 2 or 3 games to go. And I think we drew with Birmingham on the Saturday shortly after. I think that was the game where Liverpool probably were looking at Everton score going, they're going to drop points against United then. And we beat them 1-0. Duncan Ferguson.
No one, 2-1, of course.
Yeah, and they were probably coming home expecting they'd be being beat there. And we never. And it was just an unbelievable. I remember just before Arteta's free kick, obviously playing it to Duncan, the noise, like Marcus Bent was chasing every single ball, like I was going, go on, and just the incredible noise that we got, which led to the free kick. Phil Dowd gave the free kick, and then Everton got it, and obviously Arteta whipped it in, Big Duncan put it in, and I've never heard a noise like it. It was just an incredible game. So for me, that one, 1-0 United 2005.
Bit of commentary by Mark Tarr.
Brilliant,
that game.
absolutely brilliant. Yeah,
he goes, when I just about Arteta's about to take the free kick, he goes, and it's a fantastic atmosphere. what it'll be like if Everton scored only 2 seconds later.
He scores, isn't he? Yeah, 10 years on after beating them 1-0.
I like to see Rio Ferdinand talk about the defending for that goal.
Oh yeah, Duncan has him up the wall that day, didn't he?
Did a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, incredible.
I was thinking about, funnily enough, about that season the other day. I think it was on the back of, like, you know, Forest looked like the backsides have gone out.
Yeah.
They're dropping out. Unlikely they'll get fourth now, as it stands, as we're recording this. But even so, you know, if Villa were to get it, or Newcastle, you know, it's a team don't use it. Yeah. And I was thinking it'll be viewed, Forest for a long part of the season, we're going to be viewed as, isn't it remarkable if they get fourth? And it would be great. But it just undermines what an achievement it was and for you to remind everybody of the relative paucity of that squad. Now, as a team, it was fantastic, gelled. But that squad, that team, had no right really to finish fourth. And it was in a tough era for the Premier League as well. There's some unbelievable players in the Premier League, by the way.
Chelsea were flying under Mourinho at the time.
I'm not really having the Premier League stronger now.
No, you were stronger then.
I'd say stronger then.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you think
stronger now?
Maybe some of the...
No chance.
Maybe from the...
Chelsea under Mourinho.
I think the top end's not...
Alex Ferguson, Manchester United, Wenger, Arsenal.
I think 5th or 6th to 14, because far from that.
But getting fourth then would be...
Yeah, great achievement. You could beat one of the big four, or Spurs.
Yeah. And those Spurs were in the Champions League every other year at the time.
Yeah.
Incredible feat, incredible team. Yeah,
and even what Forest has spent to be in the mix all season. Yeah.
So what's your favourite match at Goodison?
I was thinking, there's so many, aren't there? It's like, you almost feel like you're betraying some of the other ones when you kind of pick one definitive one, but for the sake of the format, it always comes to my mind. And in a way, it definitely wasn't the best Everton performance I've seen here, but it was just so evocative because I've seen us finding myriad ways to lose Merseyside derbies over my lifetime. Yeah. From winning positions where we've had no chance, we've gone into them and we've just been battered as been predicted, from all sorts of different novel ways. And it was just a 3-0 game here with Andy Johnson, because until that point I don't remember being comfortable in Merseyside derby and thinking I could really emphatic and it was the sheer unbridled joy of it. And then and I tell this story but the countless times, being on my seat over there in the Bullens Road, falling off the seat, twisting my ankle, not feeling it for about 24 hours. And we were all shot down to Cherry Lane, to the taxi club, and just carried on drinking till the wee small hours. And it was the type of derby win and the type of Everton performance under David Moyes. It might not have been pretty, but it was summed up everything that was about that sort of that around about that era. It was a bit later than that season, wasn't it? But the underdogs again, Liverpool had better teams, better players. Yeah. But we had some players who they hated Tim Cahill, didn't we? Yeah. And Andy Johnson probably never really fully built on the promise.
No. It's probably the worst thing he did, wasn't it? Scored 2 in the Merseyside derby.
You can't say that, Gav.
But taking the mickey out...
Worst thing is,
in terms of...
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Cotty scoring a hat-trick on debut, how do you follow that?
Yeah.
Taking the mickey out of them with his little 3-0 hand signs. And that'll live long in the memory for me. Whether it's definitely not the best performance, but probably the most vivid memory.
Good match indeed, Gav. Favourite 90 minutes?
I said it was a fantastic derby, the 3-0 in 2013.
Brendan Rodgers, Martinez,
Oh, that was...
Two teams were ever going to attack each other.
That was just an incredible game, right? Yeah. No, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to see a better game in it, really.
Yeah, that's a good shout, that, Gav.
It's not mine, now. I want to mention 2. The first one is quite obvious, really. Not the Bayern Munich one, actually. It's beaten United 5-0. That was superb that day. It was Man United, and we had the statement victory, set us all out, we're going to win the league. My favourite game, it's the same season, I've mentioned this before, is, and was it like younger, occasionally went over to Anfield and played across Liverpool, so what's it from standing you aspire to be?
Yeah.
And they were how you judged, your team, and well, school to Anfield, coming to score the score, like you say, watching. Like different world, like watching the games, like everything was just so coordinated that all the players made that sort of. Might compared to what's ever. And in the season, you beat Sheffield United 4-0 at here. Strong Sheffield United team, in the second division, but then second division teams were good. The gap was wasn't bad. In the League Cup, it was a League Cup second round. And we had 18 killers and they had none. And I remember coming out to the game. I went one on my own because my mate couldn't go. I'm walking down the Gladys Street, and I could tell you now where we're standing. There's this massive light bulb moment. That was like watching Liverpool. I'd never ever watched 14 years watching Everton.
You'd never had that moment of saying watching,
that was like watching Liverpool. I'd never seen an Everton team play like that, and that was like a really, memorable moment for me, because on the Saturday we played Aston Villa, beat them 2-1, and on the last 20 minutes is the best I've ever seen ever, and that was here. And 2 fantastic goals scored that day. Then beat Liverpool, then beat Man United 5-0. But that all started, he beat Chelsea and United 4-0. Sometimes the best moments are personal moments. It's all right being a crowd 40,000. It's like, great, this. Sometimes the best moments are personal moments, and personal moments, and in terms of significant game, is to beat Sheffield United 4-0.
That was it. That was the moment.
Got a team, Never seen them.
We'll probably speak about our personal moments shortly, but before we do, gents, I'd like to ask you your favourite ever Everton performance you've seen from a player, individual. Who's the best Everton player you've seen live here on this turf?
So like over the piece or like a one-off game?
Over the years, who's been the best player you've seen live in an Everton shirt?
Well, Neville obviously.
You'd say Neville Southall?
Yeah, by country man. Yeah, absolutely. In terms of standards and, performances and consistency and longevity, it's Neville by an absolute man, I think if you asked a lot of every player who played with with Southall, if you asked that question, to them they would all say, it was just that good. He was just he was world class in it, and some. I think Neville, and the irony being, when we win at trophies, they were in his best years. His best years were probably 87 to 81, and
it's a good quote.
Neville was those were his peak years, and he set the standards that everybody else had to live up to. He was just a fantastic goalkeeper, and I've been an old time. You tend to, hype you tend to shy away from and stuff like that. But quite happy to say, Neville's carries out for a fantastic goalkeeper, and he's easily the best ever player I've seen.
Interesting, I spoke to a few Evertonians outside before the Ipswich game, and the age bracket roughly was from say 60 to, I'd say from 70 years of age to 50. They were the kind of the guys who I spoke to, and asked them who's the best player they've seen live here at Goodison Park. Who would you guess what their answer was? The majority of them said this player.
It could be Alan Ball, but never was.
Well, I thought it'd be Alan Ball, and it wasn't.
Who was it?
Alec Young. The absolutely and I couldn't. It was the same answer I was getting from them all.
60 years ago, but I didn't say Alex Young, so I can't say.
Yeah.
But and Young one of Young's problems, he tends to play better at Goodison than away from goal, But so I can't really say. You'd say Southall, but I didn't say Alan Ball missed out by about a month.
Yeah.
But Neville for me, in terms of outfielders, the favourite. Maybe not the best, but we see these catalogue of goals and assists. Took some, as well as being a great player as an individual. In terms of providing individual moments to remember, the twice taking free kick here, stuff like that. Nobody else.
I always remember asking my uncle, obviously about Alec Young, and he was saying to me at the time when Everton had David Moyes' team the first time around, I remember him saying to me, put Tim Cahill and Mikel Arteta together, and somewhere around about that. I went, imagine a player like that, someone of that.
Yeah, I think same. I think with Young though, his consistency, and
was in he
consistency, yeah.
But when he was good,
we know that's how the 62-3, we played every game I think that season. But with thing, you had it dropped him a few times, and it says but a lot of people would say that, but I've spoken to people, sometimes a bit rose tinted spectacles, you only remember the good bits. But you forget about the time he was in Fury. And then I suppose with Young as well, and I've written about this, is that his skill and sort of general demeanour around the pitch and where he looked, it was like, school of science, wasn't it?
That's where it came from, isn't it? Yeah.
I think that's where there's a love for Young, and that's fair enough, at the end of the day. But I'd always say that after Southall, that the best post-war player is on ball,
Subcategory for reflection there, it was the teams that I would be most envious of other Evertonians who saw and it would be that title-winning team, like that midfield. Imagine seeing that midfield.
Paul Hardy-Kendall in 69-70, yeah. Well, and it can only watch by clips. I mean, what's say though is the game has changed so much. It's so much more physical, and you know, I watch games then. I like watch games in the mid-80s, and you think, yeah, it's all right, but now football now is just far better. You know, in terms of
the football side of it.
Yeah, because you're allowed to play a lot more.
Yeah.
Then you just got, you know, this is a lot better. Then you just got, you know, if you watch some even the better teams in the late 60s, early 70s, just 90 minutes of clogging. I mean, I also lived for 11 games in the 80s. And, you know, the other weekend it was just Neville Southall do Scrabble kicking the ball.
He just loved it. He don't realise it.
You have those tinted spectacles, but you know, at the time, that's the only way you can judge people. What do they like at the time?
Definitely. For me, 16-year-old Wayne Rooney, just to do what he did that day against Arsenal, I think it just gets forgotten about so much because of what he's done after it. Yeah. And you go, and it's at 16 years of age to just waltz on, and I do say waltz, he owned that pitch. He knew he was far better than anyone else. You could just see from the streets of Liverpool and better. Yeah, he knew he was, give me the ball, I'm going to take on Sol Campbell, I'm going to stick one in the top corner, past this team, we were unbeaten in about 40 odd games, don't worry, I'll win you this game. At 16 years of age to do that is incredible. And he is by far the best ever player I've seen in Everton shirt, by a countryman.
He's a force of nature, isn't he?
Freak, absolute freak, and we'll never see anything like it again.
He said like what he went on to achieve. Do you think he achieved what you expected him to? I think he's still.
It could have been more. Could have been more.
I think.
He sacrificed himself for Alex Ferguson and his team.
Yeah.
He wasn't an individual. He's more of a team player, where Ronaldo was so.
Yeah.
Self-obsessed with becoming the best, where Rooney was more wanting to win for the team, and that's where it was.
Yeah, I think there was a bit maybe he didn't apply himself when he should have done.
Of course, yeah. You know. But that's English footballers in general. There's not many.
Yeah. For the strange thing for Wayne, isn't it, really? And you summed it up perfectly there. Like for the player who attracted so much emotion and play and stuff like that, his career highlights are very. His highlights are very. It's not very memorable, is it?
Yeah.
So it's somebody's, for strangely, so for the player that's like such emotions and high opinions, his career is just basically down to a load of stats, isn't it? I mean, so Wayne Rooney, people talk about with England record goals, you know, Manchester United record goals, all this type of stuff. And it's not, he hasn't got, dare I say, a certain, you know,
because he did in Euro 2004.
But so all this is before he's 18, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so there's a certain, contemporary of his from across the park at the same time. His career is actually these memorable moments. Really. With Wayne, I was just thinking, I'm left a little bit unfulfilled, really.
But even to come back when he did, when he come back at Everton, when he was more or less past it, he was still by far better than anything else. Well, he had
the goal against West Ham.
Yeah, that says more about the rest of the team.
Of course it does.
I totally agree with you about that Arsenal game. I think I told you this story that I was in the press box that day, and in the days of the old press box, and where we got half time it was, and Wenger came in at the end of the game. He said that thing, didn't he, about saying, Rooney's the best English talent I've seen, and I was standing right by you. And you just said, hackneyed old hacks in the press box. Go the big, and as you know, I seen Wenger last year on holiday.
Oh yeah, did you speak to him about it, Gav? Yeah, you were right. You were spot on.
And I said, but I think at that stage, I'd my photograph taken. I think when it started, reminding him of 30 games, losing 30 games, beating up on Merseyside. You want to be. Thanks, mate.
You spoke very well of Goodison Park and Wenger at the time, didn't you?
That Rooney one, and of course the chip on the ball.
Almost scored a better one.
Yeah. But that's right up
absolute freak. I don't think we'll ever see it.
Goodison's one of Goodison's memorable moments.
Oh yeah,
and it's not just recency behind it. It's just you take all Goodison's moments. That's right.
Oh yeah, without a shadow.
Tree again.
Remember the name, yeah.
Tilsley.
Clive Tilsley. I spoke to him about that, and he said that's had nothing to do with him. He said he spoke to an Evertonian in one of the after dinner speaking he was doing in the Devonshire or whatever it was around Liverpool. Might have even been the Moat House or whatever it was at the time. And he said, I remember speaking to one of the guys come up to him. He said, you're following Everton, blah, blah, blah. And one of the Everton fans comes to him and said, I'm telling you about there's a kid that's in the academy. He's got academy at the time, the academy. He said, there's a kid that's going to come. He said, remember the name Wayne Rooney? and that was it. He walked away, and then that's when he says he had nothing to do with me, Clive. He said some guy literally told me that in the hotel. Yeah. He said, just remember this kid's name, Wayne Rooney, and that wasn't wrong. It wasn't wrong indeed.
I know that, like, I've been headline makers, but all the great day was his last game when he was 16 as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was 17 on the Wednesday. Afterwards, so that was another, like, made it more of a landmark.
It was, yeah. What a goal, top corner there as well.
Yeah, I think the goalkeeper.
Yeah. Incredible. Do you remember, I don't know if it was after that game, it was possibly later on, it was before the Euros, and he was playing footy in the street still, in his France top.
Yeah.
It was just, I doubt it.
No, you won't see that. The way football is now with academy players,
it's just one of the last, I think what he said, didn't he, the last of the street footballers. What a memory of Wade here was not a goal, it was just really how advanced he was for such a young age, where I think we were playing Aston Villa or something in 2004, March 2004, and we got the ball in the centre circle, and he's pointing, like somebody's not making a run, and he's going, and he's like 17 or whatever, and he's like with senior pros, and he's basically telling them, listen, this is what you must be doing. Because they've got the great players have an understanding of the game that you just can't.
No, you can't. No coach in any academy can coach that.
You can have the natural talent which you can develop in something, but you can't teach that understanding of play to play football. And he had that. Quite obviously had that when he was 16, and I still think of him unfulfilled really. But that's
so. Before we get to our favourite Goodison Park moment, that's what we'll wrap up on. Greg, who was the best player you've seen live?
So probably technically the best, consistently, in a very evocative era.
Yeah,
I loved watching. I had a soft spot for Anders Limpar.
Yeah,
but I loved watching Mikel Arteta. Now I really find him quite unsavoury as he is now as a manager, and I fight hard to separate the two.
Yeah,
because I loved him as an Everton player, and I remember at the time, he probably isn't in the same league as Alec Young. I couldn't judge it. But I remember there was a loose throw around comparison. I remember Bill Kenwright sort of like probably being charitable to Mikel, but saying that he reminded him of him, called him whatever the Spanish translation of his Odo or Rodis.
Very good.
Hey.
So no, this was Bill Kenwright's words, not mine. But I had the season ticket in the Lower Bullens. And at that time, Moyes was playing out wide.
Yeah, he's put him on the wing for it.
Yeah, dropped back into a central midfielder, didn't he? But he played on the wing for a while before he did his knee, if you remember.
Yeah.
And defenders absolutely didn't know what to do with him. Not because he ever had searing pace before his knee injury, but because he could go inside or outside and he'd do the step overs, the Cruyff turns. He was such a talented footballer. Probably underrated because he played for us, so he doesn't get mentioned it. And obviously, again, he moved at the time to Arsenal. So
relatively late on his career.
It was.
Trophy.
I think also as well, never got capped for Spain, which says more about the Spanish midfield.
Well, he had this. It was one of the great. It used to wind me up. I used to moan about that. So everybody, the fact he didn't get called up for Spain, but it's free kicks, set pieces, corners again before the knee, because it did take a few notches off him. He changed. He was still a great player. Fiorentina goal, he had it all for me. Yeah, and he was also a bit of a
good evening.
Yeah, I tell you what, to talk about atmospheres. I mean, I think the Fiorentina to the Arteta's goal against Fiorentina is the loudest I've ever heard Goodison.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. I mean, I was in the press box, and you could, with food to the main stand.
Unbelievable.
He was shaking, I think that, I've said against Bayern Munich, obviously, and stuff, another big game, you spend was £55,000. But I think that's the loudest, isn't it?
Right up there.
Yeah. Honourable mention for Leighton Baines as well.
Oh, yeah, without a shadow. So, we'll finish on, gents, your personal favourite Goodison Park moment that you could, if you'd love to relive one more moment.
Well, this is good.
Of course it is.
I'm not joking. If I could reminisce,
could just relive through that one moment one more time.
Even when I'll have occasion when I've had several beers too much, I start watching it on things that tears to my eye.
Yeah, it's cool.
This now actually is by celebrating winning the title here in '85. She used to do the final whistle when all the players went around the ground and stuff like that. I watch that regularly, and it still brings the tears to the eye now that you just can't.
So jealous.
You can't. you know, you could bottle it, make a fortune. You just can't quantify.
Unbelievable.
What that was like. It goes back to what I was saying before about Liverpool, you know, that actually you knew how each they were respected this, they were the champions.
Yeah.
They were the team that everybody looked up to, and they weren't champions anymore, we were. And in fact, that was 15 years since. A vague memories of 70 that I wasn't going. And I'm going to watch that regularly, and it's just fantastic. In the days when people did tours of the ground at the place properly, there was no, like, you know, like extended families, you know, you know, the gardener, a couple of family pets, you know, the window cleaner, all going out the pitch, just you know, the players, the management. And I was creating the press photographers who following it. It looks great.
Yeah, exactly.
And that
it should be done, Gav.
It should be done now. It's rubbish, not that bad. Opportunity to see that.
Exactly,
Probably wouldn't complain. Go down the title of BMD, you know. But I think that's the one moment. If I could take one moment.
Mine probably happened a few years ago, and funny enough, it was round about here in the Park End, and I was with my lads. And it's, you know what, I remember speaking, it was for the Merseyside derby. Obviously Liverpool were going for the league title at the time, Everton were needing to stay up. I remember saying to me dad, I said, I can get a derby ticket there for me and Anthony. Shall I take him to his first derby? And my dad said, well, I took you to your first derby when you were 7. He said, so go for it. And I went, shall I? I said, because Liverpool were flying at the time, they were going to wrap the league up, we were struggling. I thought, you know what, I'll take him to his first Merseyside derby. And then obviously Gareth Branthwaite scored and Dominic Calvert-Lewin down that end, and it was personal for me because we hadn't seen Everton win a Merseyside derby for about 15 years before that. Was Arteta, funny enough, in 2010 was the last time. So it was like a good long while since we'd seen Everton win a Merseyside derby here at Goodison Park. So to see that, and then to be there for the first time with my son and him, see Goodison Park on a night in a big game like that, even just like now thinking about it. And one honourable mention for the Tarkowski one as well. So I've took him to 2 Merseyside derbies. He's so lucky. All the trauma I've had in all the years of watching Merseyside derbies here. He's been to 2. Exactly. And he said his first game, believe it or not, was Watford's when we got battered 5-3 and Josh King scores. That was his first ever game. But his last game, and I wanted to leave it at that, was his last game at Goodison with myself, was in the lower Bullens down there, and it was Tarkowski, obviously 2-2. And a couple of minutes ago, Liverpool were singing, we won the league at Goodison Park. And I turned around and I said to him, lad, do you want to go? And he went, come on, lad, we'll go. I said, hang on, we may as well stay. And we stayed. The ball gets lumped in the box and Tarkowski scores. And just thinking about it now, it's just seeing his face and all Everton fans, just that's probably the best atmosphere I've witnessed in terms of hostility and Goodison Park, what it is, just incredible moments. So then too for me, being at Goodison Park, watching incredible Merseyside derby moments.
It was the last derby, Goodison, we knew that.
The last game under the lights.
And as it turned out, but like, it was that final derby, so it was significant. But it was the last minute equalised, wasn't it? But it meant that the last bit of derby history of Goodison was Everton history, not their history, wasn't it? You know,
reclaimed it.
And even though you say about 2-0 winning the game, so I totally get that. But after all, it was only 2-0, but it meant that the last memory was not a Salah goal to make the
of course, and they would have won the league. Well, they would have claimed. And one thing I will say on it, Gab, sorry, thinking about this season in the Premier League, it's one of the unique, iconic moments of the Premier League this season. Without a shadow, you speak to even Red now, but there's not many iconic moments from this season. That is one of them, without a shadow.
Spontaneity, which I think has disappeared from football, hasn't it? You know? It was. I know it was and also meant the derby wins with the same on the tab. It meant them going ahead, didn't it? Really. So it had the resonance way behind scoring the last minute equaliser in the derby.
And one thing I will say as well, the loudest noise I've ever heard at Goodison was the Takori goal against Bournemouth. That I've never heard a noise like that. That was loud. That was loud.
Noise I've ever heard at Goodison. It was. It's actually one of the funniest moments of Goodison. You were this like in the early 80s, and you get like about 15,000 terraces with empty and stuff like that. And you only do the Operation Goodison.
Operation Goodison,
Operation Goodison. Because 15,000 everything, you can hear a lot more. It becomes like a lot more. There's a commence Operation Goodison. So like you just hear like the next minute, you just hear this almighty crash over the tunnel, and then this horrible like scratching and
down your knees.
And it was like, you know, so obviously something's
gone wrong.
And then next week just stayed over the tunnel. Stop offering Goodison, stop. Like, and everybody's like,
well, it almost is now. Stop offering Goodison,
everybody's on the tunnel, because there's like not many people there, all laughing their heads off, like, you know, I was a bit involved with that.
Sweeping up around us as we speak.
Go on, Greg, you can have the last words on it, your favourite Goodison Park moment. The last words, go on.
It's always family, isn't it? You know, all mention like these emotive moments. So, it was 94. We lost my granddad in 94. He was a Liverpool fan, and he was absolutely fantastic. An old school, like, football fan. He used to go and watch Everton and Liverpool, but was a Liverpool fan. And we were all Evertonians. My dad's season ticket holder, and didn't take after him, but he was very good natured with it. But we'd lost him. He died, and it was first experience of grief. And so I was about 13, so you know, you're sort of reeling, really. It's very hard.
Yeah, of course.
And we were having a rubbish time of it on the pitch as well. And then we signed Duncan Ferguson in January, didn't we? In the Durant, and it was the Merseyside derby, funnily enough, here. And you know, we've since heard apocryphally about Ferguson getting arrested the night before. Or certainly taken in anyway by the police. And I just remember that win. It was a Monday night.
Joe Wall's first game.
And he scored, and obviously a hero then. And it's funny, football affects your life when you're that.
Of course,
Any age, doesn't it? Well, it gives you something, it gives you a bit of a spare. It like pulls you out of life and rhythms of life.
Your escapism,
the inevitable parts of life, and it just gives you something to cling to when you're that age, and you know, you're sort of like, they are your heroes, aren't they? And Duncan Ferguson became one that night for sure.
I mean, for cynics would say, actually, you need real life to escape from heaven. That's it. For the last 10 years.
No better way to end the episode on that.
Another great game here, similar one, 4-4 draw in the derby.
4-4 indeed. No better way to end the episode on. It's been a goodbye to Goodison Park episodes 1892 to 2025. Goodison Park, it's been emotional.